you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's the last session of the day and the conference fatigue has set in. But also the fact that me and my panelists are holding you from hitting the bar. But what we have here is going to be a heady cocktail of data, AI, ML, and a lot of cognitive technologies that we're going to be talking about. Now, since morning, we've been talking about data and its potential in creating intelligent enterprises. Now, the final destination for all of this is AI capabilities. And AI is no longer just an exotic curiosity. It's here and now. It's something that organizations have started to adopt in their quest to digital-first business models. And AI has become a bit of an ubermensch as it gets applied to customer experience, customer service, operational efficiencies. So with this illustrious set of panelists representing organizations across industry verticals, we'll try and pick their brains to understand how they are leveraging data maturity to take the leap of faith towards AI, and how they are looking at some of the trends in this area, and what are some of the interesting technologies that are finding their way into their roadmaps. So I'd like to start off with you, Gopi. As is famously known, and also Mr. Mukesh Ambani says that data is the new oil. But if data is the new oil, then cloud computing is the pipeline, and AI is the refinery. So how are you leveraging this three-pronged approach to mature your data analytics, and how are you leveraging it to pave the way for AI-enabled cognitive capabilities within your organization?
Am I audible? Hi, thank you. Thank you, Sneha, for that. Actually, you put it in data in oil, it's a very old way, but I'll say the little reform way. If you take a data as an engine oil in your car, the computing and combination is the real, outcome of the data. Analytical is the real engine of it. So based on that only, you are able to drive it. You are able to see that, how much kilometer I can go, what kind of conditions I have in my car, everything together. This data only going to tell you. So the data you may have everything, but without analytical in an intelligent way, which is you already mentioned, three prolong. So I'll put it in another way. How we normally see the three prolong in a financial analytical, clinical analytical, which is a cost optimization and another benefit. And over and above, more than finance, operations analyticals. These three combination together only we are able to arrive at some conclusions. And every day we are taking some hundreds and thousands of activity and decisions. Based on this only, it will drive us to, reach to the certain stage. Okay, based on your previous data, what we are going to do, and what is the predictive analysis, what is the cognitive analysis, which will drive us to do the next level of futuristic way. So I strongly believe, yes, data is oil.
Can you talk about some granular details as to how you're doing this within your organization? How are you making it all possible with data?
See, when you look at the data is your asset. And based on the data, each and everything is asset, right? So either humans are asset, and each and every hardware and software is our asset. And that's why, in company we call it everything is an asset is important. So how we make sure that all the assets are working. So each asset contains a data. We are able to pull the data, whatever the format, whatever, either it's a text data or is it a whatever the combination, or some people call it big data, whatever it is. So when you put the combination of all the data together, we are arrived at the conclusion of, okay, we are able to reach certain stage now. This is the data analytical. I'm just trying to put it in a, not technical jigad way. I'm putting in a very simple format way. Any data, it's have a meaning, and we are able to make sense out of it, and we are able to take decision out of it, then we call it data. And every day we generate some trillions of data. It doesn't mean, you are able to analyze it. Simple example is if you go to Google, just search for headache. Second page, third page, you'll end up on cancer. You search anything, even say leg pain. Third page it will end up on cancer. Because the analytical way it works is whatever you are not able to find the answer, finally it will end up on the cancer. So similarly, but what we are doing business, we cannot do it in that way. Because when anybody wake up, they want to know what happened yesterday, what my sales was, and what are the operation hazard I have, how I are going to mitigate today, and what I'm going to do today, and what are the support I needed. When they wake up, they want to see that. And without analytical data, we are not able to see that. And we cannot plan anything in the futuristic way.
Right. So we spoke at length in the morning. If you could talk about some of the ways in which you're developing a strategic approach to information architecture and data ops to then power your business with some of these intelligent capabilities that come with data.
Sure. I mean, like we spoke in the morning, I think it's all about trying to figure out, how to kind of have very tight communication, across the organization. As you grow, as you're, starting an organization or working in a startup, these things sort of automatically happen because you have a small team, everybody's talking to each other. But as you scale out, I think you need the sort of organizational structure and also the supporting, tools and other infrastructure to kind of support this. So having a platform team that sets some standards around, how data definitions happen, how change management happens, how that's communicated across the organization. It can be done through technology. It could also be done through manual processes. Depends, what the organization defines for itself. And in terms of how what kind of data ops, I think there needs to be a very good communication across the teams on how to evolve the use cases and also sort of how to evolve the capabilities of the organization, right, which might be more technology developments and so on, and how you actually define the organizational KPIs and keep a good track of it. If you need governance, right, which most of the organizations do, make sure that is sort of baked in. I think these are sort of the main
Basic building blocks.
basic aspects. A lot just boils down to communication at the end of the day.
Right, absolutely, because data runs across the entire, your organization horizontally, vertically. So a lot of it would have to do with communication and communicating to the right stakeholders, to the LOBs, to the people in charge, to the people who have the data ownership for that particular data set. Right, absolutely, very important and relevant points there, Dhanesh. Gopi, I'd like to move on to you. You are on both sides of the table as an enterprise and also as a vendor partner. One of the key challenges that keeps organizations away from actually realizing and deriving the business impact and benefits from data is the fact that data is stored in silos, and there are data silos, there are analytics silos, there are people silos. The point that Dinesh alluded to, that communication is another challenge when it comes to such endeavors. So how do you think organizations can work around these three kinds of silos to be able to get closer to their aim of making data first, AI first business models?
Yeah, so the way I would look at it is to first break down the silos. We need, three different areas from a refinement perspective. First is we need to look at it from a people perspective. So typically what I've seen is most of the organizations, they have a dedicated centralized data and analytics unit. So the idea of this unit is simple, right? Like when you have, say, the data team, you have data engineers. They are more, into the ETL world and maybe the cloud world. Then when you go to the AI side, you have people who are more ML engineers, data scientists. So they don't understand data engineering, right? You can't solve a complete problem. And then when you look at it from a consumer perspective, the apps perspective, you need people who knows APIs, who needs front end. So that's what this centralized data and analytics organizations solve. one part is look at it from a technology skilling perspective, talent perspective. Second part is look at somebody who can partner with the business and see how to translate what the business needs into something what the AI teams can deliver. So that's the people part. Now, next part is what you need from a technology perspective. That's the platform. That's the underlying platform. So here, what we look at is one platform or one logical platform. It need not be one platform, but a logical platform which enables end users to consume data without any issues. Basically, the underlying theme should be automation. So automation of ETL, the ingestion getting automated, data ops, DevOps, right? So essentially, all this coupled with whether you have a lakehouse architecture or whatever, data warehouse or whatever it is. But essentially, one logical platform which also ensures, data governance, metadata management. You can track what changed, throughout the life cycle of the data. So that's the second part. Now, the third part is, of course, the process part, right? So how do you ensure the data ownership? Who is responsible for the ownership? Who is responsible to provision your environment? Who's responsible to provision your particular data? And then who looks at it from a security and privacy perspective? So that's essentially the process part. So essentially, if you get this part right, all under the umbrage of the data and analytics organization, that's what actually helps break down the silos.
Thank you so much. You gave us a very comprehensive view of how organizations could work around it. So it would require a very cohesive unit of process experts, technology experts, data experts working in tandem so that, they can then, all of them can bring in their expertise and value to the table and then help create intelligence out of data. Otherwise, we'll always remain short on insights and information from all the data that we collect. Right. Now, to move on to you, Vipin. Your business model centers around customers, partners, stores, and the entire brand experience. How are you leveraging analytics that you gather from your customers, your loyal set of customers, to then understand at the store level the demand forecasting, how much of beverages and food you would require for a particular store, and how do you go about persona creation, understanding the value proposition that a customer can bring to then be able to get a bigger share of their wallet? How do you go about creating that customer experience, customer servicing, and also your store management around it?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to the panel here. I think it's been a great day of learning. Talking about the analytics at Starbucks, I think I want to just take a step back and talk about what really Starbucks stands for as a business, right? So Starbucks aspires to be that third place somewhere between home and work where an individual can come and feel connected, feel that warmth, have a great chat with the partner, and just enjoy a cup of coffee, right? And that's all we stand for. And then from a technology standpoint, our global vision had been amplifying human connections, leveraging technology. Now, when we talk about analytics, AI, ML, or anything we want to do in technology, it has to revolve around that. And now, I think, as you also said, from a business standpoint, there are 4 key pillars, right? So customer, the brand, the supply chain, and the partners. Now, all the analytics are somewhere revolves around these 4 pillars. When we talk about customers, I think the approach is to obviously understand the customer and not to sell. Obviously, we are here to make money, but to make, how can we make your experience better? So for example, when a customer shows up at the point of sale system, our endeavor is to not cross-sell and upsell, but to give you the best cup of coffee with the best pairing food or the kind of coffee pouring methodology that would be there. So for example, if you're there, I would want to advise you to maybe take, if you're an Americano customer, then maybe have you tried Americano in a French press? Or have you tried Americano with our new single source Peru coffee, because that'll actually taste much better than what you have done before. And maybe we are one of the only retailers in QSR where actually when you go in, the actually barista sees your entire profile and also your next best recommendation on what you see, right? So the purpose of us again is to not, even if you look at our app currently, it is what it is, but we are trying to improve it. But we're not trying to sell there on the app. You won't see any carousels on the first page. As compared to any B2C organization, we don't have any offers or carousels. We just said, okay, this is your loyalty profile, and this is you can order coffee, right? So our customer analytics is around understanding the segmentations, the LTV, which any other organization will do, but to understand how we can make your experience better at Starbucks. Similarly, in terms of contextual also, when you are we are using analytics to understand your profile, location, and understand how can so for example, one of the key pain points for consumer when you're at Starbucks is you have taken one first cup of coffee, but now you're sitting at your desk enjoying the Wi-Fi, and you feel like having a second cup, but you don't want to go and stand in line. How can I use in your location analytics, tie up with your loyalty data and your transaction data, and then offer you saying, would you like a refill? So that sort of things we are endeavoring to do on the customer side. And when it comes to the partner side, because partners, the people who work in our stores, we call them partners. So the partners who are there in the stores, our endeavor is also to make their life easier. How can we make their lives more rewarding and easier? And one of the most complex tasks in QSR is to actually order inventory and do inventory ordering at the end of the day. How much food I should order based on shelf life, and based on balancing the consumer experience as well as the COGS. So our analytics work is then revolves around how much inventory you would need at the store, how much you should order, how can I take the human decisioning out of it while getting benefit from it as well, right? So for example, I don't know how much you may know that we have two stores at Geo Mall, right? One is in the mall itself and one is outside the mall. Now the demand profiling for both stores is exactly completely different, because now when you order food within the store at the mall, your profilings are sale events, your profiling is weekends, whereas the store outside is actually an office driven store. So your demand forecasting and the kind of food that you're ordering in each of the stores is completely different. So then so what happens today is a store manager just goes and say, I think this is I should order. But then what is the impact on the scrap rate? What is the impact on customer experience? What is the impact on COGS? I think that's something that we have to understand, and our analytics work is evolving around that. How we can take the human factor, take their knowledge, experience, but take the pain out of their lives of ordering and judging, and then sort of getting responsible for saying what is the scrap rate and what is the COGS. So that's what we are doing. Yeah.
Some interesting use cases around customer experience and also demand forecasting there. Gopi, I'd like to move on to you. Now, the thing is, what came across in the panels in the first half as well is that, we can't really look at data for a very pan-galactic answer. We should know what questions to ask of the data and then try and figure out the answers around those questions. So in that sense, as one of the panelists in the morning said, there has to be an intentional gathering of data and an intentional usage and analysis of data. So because organizations also have a lot of dark data, how do you decide where to shine light on and how to collect those nuggets of gold from your entire data mound?
It's a very good question, actually. When you look at the dark data, it is nothing but a customer data, employee data, all similar data, we call it dark data. Now the thing is, I want to add one more thing, which is already Balaji mentioned. It's regarding the silos. Actually, I believe that is also part of this. Because if you look at any organization, they will have some big enterprise, they may have some hundreds of divisions and multiple departments. And imagine that each department started to invent their own idea and their own automations, own learnings, and coming with an own purchase. Imagine the chaos, actually. Now, if you are able to translate one success story, one department done a beautiful thing, automation, are we in a leverage to transfer all the benefit, everything to other departments and the entire enterprise level? Maybe, of course, one size not fit for all, but 90% it will fit everywhere, But to understand that, data makes sense, first we have to start in a roles and responsibility, and organization culture also playing a huge role. So first we have to understand the fundamental of, if you look at any organization, the organization have one vision. For example, chairman come with one vision that This year I want to achieve $100 billion. So the vision is converted into, translate into his mission. Okay, I want to achieve $100 billion. Now it's translating all the president, or you know what, each department, you are HR, you are finance, you are sales, you are this division, that division. I want
So a
to
top-down approach.
Exactly.
The best way is to whisper it in the king's ears and then it'll percolate.
Exactly. So the IT guy will think, okay, what I am supposed to do? The mantra is do more with less. So every year your growth will be more and more business going to add, more stores going to add, more things going to add. But you cannot keep increase. You know what? Before I managed thousands of devices and thousands of stores. Now I need more thousands of resources. It's never going to fly in that way. So it is important to do more activities with the less resources only by achieving the automation. How you do the automation? Understand that company trend. Even you put a small machinery, is it the machinery 100% utilized? So you have to enable the IoT along with the simple analytical. It will tell you that, okay, this machine is only 35-40% usage and this is the peak and this is the less peak, and you can enable that and you can move it forward. And how we are going to enable that, the similar thing is the efficiency and how is the accuracy, how is the quality of the work. And similarly, tomorrow the sales is going down. Okay, this area not sufficient. This stock I need to keep it more. And how I can going to enable in that way. So when you are integrating all these things, the data is supposed to make sense out of it. And futuristic way, you know what, you want this stock today, but if within wrote the line, within third year, the business model will out of the sync. So we have to prepare into the new business model or new business. So that, cognitive analysis will help you on that. So all the data, it's have a meaning. Only the thing is we have to try to understand the meaning the way we want to understand that. That is important.
Interesting points, Gopi. Now, Dhanesh, a lot of the time of the data analysts is almost 80 to 90% of their time is spent on cleaning the data, getting the data right, getting the house in order basically before they really try to derive any benefits out of data. So data quality remains a key issue for most organizations, and to reach a state where organizations are actually happy and satisfied with the accuracy, the veracity of their data, and the speed at which they are receiving relevant contextual data is still some time away. I don't think any of us are going to reach that stage anytime soon. So when it comes to deploying AI, data quality, data governance, and data management are still some of the foundational barriers that most organizations deal with. So what is it that they can do to achieve some level of satisfaction with the quality of data that they have so that they can start building some sort of data related initiatives around it, and then be able to, at least gain some level of data maturity to then be able to take on things like ML and AI?
Sure. I think a lot of this happens in evolving processes, right? And where you haven't really thought about what kind of data you want, what and how you want to actually, use it, right? What kind of use cases you'd look at, and we are dealing with some pains very similar to this because we recently did some process change at Lending Cart, and we are kind of living this pain. But being a fintech, obviously, you can't even get one single data wrong. So it is a lot of hard work, running through a lot of numbers, making sure this looks good, doing row-level reconciliations, and so on. But I think what's the positive thing about this is at least people are getting to understand, how important this is, right? What are the importance of different data elements, and ensure that the process and the product and the technology that's enabling that process keeps a track of these issues, right? And once the process matures, do you really need a constant monitoring of it? Probably not required. Once it matures, then you just take it for granted, and this happens in organizations where there is a very mature a strategy around data and ensuring this completeness. Yeah, but I think it's a evolving process. And I think each organization or each function has to go through the necessary pains to actually define this. So that's my take on.
Right. It's always a work in progress when it comes to
Yeah,
data, right?
absolutely.
So, Gopi, there is no AI without IA, information architecture. You need, for AI, you need ML. For ML, you need accurate, clean data. So, what do you think organizations should do to create that strong, sturdy rungs on the AI ladder? What is it that they can do around information architecture to then help build that kind of a capability that they can leverage AI within the organization?
Yeah. So typically, the way I've seen most of the organizations initiate their AI is through innovations, right? So essentially, a bunch of data scientists goes and gathers some open source data, and then they actually show some wonderful things, and then they get the business buy-in. But then the actual problem of a lack of data strategy comes in once the business asks that POC to be scaled. So that's when actually people find out that they've actually not had a data strategy. So a data strategy should be a precursor to at least scaling of the AI strategy. So again, data strategy, if we look at it is basically the next level of your information strategy. So information strategy, you start off with from a business perspective, what are you looking at as your potential use cases, and then you also look at whom do you source data, what is going to be your first party data, what is going to be your second party data, what is going to be your third party data. Then once you actually look at what are the data elements or what are the informational elements you're going to do business with, you come to how do you actually collect this data, how do you actually store this data, and then how do you actually deliver this data or distribute this data. So that's where actually when you collect your data, you have to look at what level of automation is possible. Now, who's going to do the cleaning? Are we getting clean data? Generally, what I've seen is if it is a much more newer cloud native organization, they actually just hook up their data from SaaS systems. So here, the data is like relatively clean and data quality is not as big an issue as what it is in, say, a legacy organization or at least a company with legacy technologies, right? Because that has some 20 years of data. So here, what we need to do is, as part of the strategy, we need to look at a kind of data profiling index. So we actually need to look at whether, what are the rules you need to identify outliers. So for example, if I have actually, had, 100 devices sold per day over 1 month, say in September, and that's what my past 10 years of data says. And this year, when I'm actually getting in the data, if it shows 1,000, right, what should I do? So at least should I have some alert? And because this data is further going to be used for my AI use cases. So basically, how do you look at data profiling? How do you look at data quality? Right? And again, for data quality, very large organizations, they have some kind of data quality repository, rules repository, right? So that's basically what is a boundary you can look at. How do you handle your duplicate data? How do you handle your blank data? So all those strategies have to trickle in. So again, so this actually forms part of your collection. Now, when you want to store, so you look at where do you want to store? Are you going to store on-premise, on cloud? What type of database? Whether you're going to go with NoSQL or SQL. So that actually takes into, we need to take that into consideration. And then looking at delivery, right? So what are the use cases going to be? Are they going to be real-time delivery? Are they going to be, business intelligence? Are they going to be AI ML? Or they are actually going to be, some kind of apps? So that's where, we look at this whole thing as a data product. So basically, what is your data product strategy about? So that's how, so once you achieve that, that's when your AI maturity actually trickles in. And that's when actually you go towards your AI scale. But again, what people don't realize is once you go to AI scale, a lot of adoption issues trickle in because that is because of the trustworthiness of the data, the bias which people think might be there as part of the data. So how do you handle automated decision making? So for that, you need to have some strategy about explainable AI and trustworthy AI. That's when your AI initiatives actually succeed.
Thank you so much, Gopi. Now, when we talk about AI, and when we talk about AI at scale in particular, as Gopi was mentioning, sometimes organizations struggle with identifying the right use cases for AI, and then also in terms of creating a clear strategy around some of these use cases. How have you dealt with this within your organization, and are there any best practices that have emerged in the quest for some of these use cases for AI?
So I think that's an interesting question because during my consulting days, I think there used to be a statement which said digital transformation is all about change management. I think that is the answer to your question at a very macro level, right? I think anything which we are doing in AI or which is something more than the normal business teams will see, I think it has to all start from what are we really trying to solve for, and then once you have shown the results, does the business guy or the business stakeholders do they believe in it, and do they see the value, and then when they see the value, can they take an action and actually impact the revenue for the company or the cost for the company or not? If that cycle is not complete, nothing, everything is I use the word FOMO or a rocket project, and that's it. You can do fancy POCs, you can spend money, but end of the day, as one of the panelists said, the moment business asks you to scale, you're like, what do you do? And I think that's where I think the focus needs to be, right? So whichever use case you pick up within the customer, I remember 4 or 5 years ago in my earlier role when I think we started talking about personalization. And then I really struggled to put an ROI number of personalization. I said, look, okay, my app conversion today is actually, let's say, X percentage. And if I, spend so many lakhs of rupees on personalization engine and all the integration and all scaling up and all that, what does my incremental conversion number will look like? A lot of the partners we work with, they really struggled. People said, oh, 1%, 1.5%. But, still, I'm not sure how many people actually, unless they're doing it themselves, and I've seen that, the actual true attribution of personalization, what would be that in an app? So, and same for other things. I think the analytics example that I was talking about, vision analytics. I mean, we endeavored on that path, and then we spent a lot of time in actually, because one of the utopia in offline retail is to track consumer journey, right? Are you able to track? So in QSR, the online everybody has solved for, but like in QSR offline, can you track the time taken from a consumer, by the consumer, from door entry to standing in the queue, the time taken to stand in the queue, and the time taken to actually pick up the food. The moment you've paid the bill, moved out, and the moment you pick up the food. All three time, can you measure? Probably not. But we try to endeavor towards solving it through vision analytics. And I think we are still at a stage where people like it, people like get fancied by how you can do it, but are we able to do it at scale? I think the time will tell, because the actual benefits of using that data and then creating an impact on operational efficiencies in the store, training the baristas, modifying their behavior and having an actual impact on ADT is yet to be seen, right? So I think yeah. So going back again, I believe recently I think I was looking at a video from Steve Jobs, and he was saying customer experience comes first and technology comes later. I think that I feel goes with everything we do in digital transformation. I think if there is a pain point, I think other one we talk about like partners, if we can solve a partner pain point by using AI or ML, and we can prove it and we can build the trust, doing predictably every day in the morning with the same accuracy level, then yes, people will believe in it, and then they will get funded to do at scale. Otherwise, it's just a like a project which happened. Yeah.
Right, that's absolutely correct, Vipin. That's the whole end goal behind every innovation, especially with digital. All of it is aimed towards making the customer's life simpler and more seamless. The entire experience more seamless. Now, while organizations do all of that, Gopi, it's important to establish the formal guardrails and the guideposts to make sure that your data-led initiatives don't go away. So, how do you manage to do that within your organization?
See, it's about the ownership mindset and the company culture playing a huge role on that. So it is important to understand that who own it actually. And second is there is each and every activity is a time-bound activity. Because if you want to deliver something, you have to deliver today. You cannot deliver, for lifetime, your career out of it. So it's important to have a clear sponsorship, who is you are working on, and for what purpose you are going to do, and why you are doing this. The question should be very clear. And when you look at the data, of course, the data is huge. Even you take one simple, even infrastructure side like a SIEM data, per day you will get some so many tera and it will reach in 2-3 days in peta. But what you are going to achieve by the data? So you have to be very clear. Okay, I am going to see the threat analysis or something. When I look at the other data, which is my another application data or any other big data or DevOps or whatever the data I have, when I look at it, what I'm going to do with that? So the agenda is supposed to be clear, ownership is clear, and what is the business outcome clear. Because sometimes you do so much automations, putting so much money and cost and effort, finally the outcome is not much measurable, then doesn't make any sense. So it should be clear on that, and based on the measurement, we have to know.
I think with that, we'll move into a quick wrap up. We'll start with Danesh, and all of you will take turns, and then we'll come back to Gopi. What do you think is the change in mindset, the change in skill sets that's required to create an AI-first culture, to foster that culture within your organization? And what are some of those roadblocks that you need to encumber?
Yeah, I think like Gopi said, a lot of it I think boils down to ownership. I think finding those owners and kind of instilling that ownership in all the people who would be part of any data initiative or any AI initiative. And I'm a big believer in making sure people cross skill. And as a data scientist, you are sometimes wearing a product hat, sometimes you're wearing a technology hat. And people try to put barriers to themselves saying, I won't do this, I won't do that. I think we should make sure you don't have people like that in the organization. I think try to have people.
Political wars within departments.
Yeah, I mean, I think in old school, yeah, it sort of made sense. You wanted to specialize and go very deep in something, which is fine if you can do something great there. I mean, it's okay to have that mix, but often, the value is only derived when you're able to cross barriers and talk to a person in business or talk to a person in product or talk to someone in technology and actually get feedback and, kind of come with a common solution. So I think that's like the biggest thing, which I have at least seen in my career that, is the most single valuable thing that, somebody can bring.
Yeah, so the first part I would say is data democratization. So if you see many companies, only the executives would want to have access to data and dashboard, right? So if you want to actually make your employees use data, have trust in data, and then maybe with AI, the first thing what you should do is you should give them access. You should actually enable your
That's
the ground
a good
level
starting
statesman.
point to then, be able to democratize data-led innovation.
Yes,
Right.
yes. That's the
Giving
first
access
thing.
to data,
Second
right.
thing is, I do see a lot of IT departments, focus on working for data. You should actually make data work for you. So for that, you need to actually introduce automation. Third is what I would say is, if you go to the finance department, right, you would get to know how, AI friendly the culture is. So if they insist on paper bills, right, so that means that they are still not ready yet for AI.
So the deep-rooted practices have to go away.
Yes. So yeah,
Mindset.
the digitization. I mean, digitization is a prerequisite for digitalization.
Correct.
I'll actually maybe take a different view. I'll say I think I'd rather foster a data first, sort of decision making and data first culture in the organization. Because in my view, you may or may not need AI for a certain use case or not, right? It may just be data, right? Somebody sitting at the store, he just wants to see what my sales for yesterday is, and then this what should I do tomorrow? I think so. In my view, for that, the mindset from both business and technology, the business has to be a little bit more flexible. You have to, it has to, obviously there has to be a lot of executive sponsorship. And I think, but at the same time, I feel it's a bit of a cycle because the moment technology guys, and as one of the panelists in the earlier panel was saying, the technology guy wears a hat of a business transformation guy, I think then things will be very different. And then I think once they wear that BTO view and then there is executive sponsorship, I think a lot of things will change because when people see value, why would they not take it? If the data is at their hands, they know what the intelligence is all about, then I don't think you have to work hard for that. And then, yeah, my skill set is just that. I think you need the guys in the team who are front ending, who actually can wear that hat. So that's what I would say.
Gopi, your closing comments?
Yeah, use data wisely.
I think most of it got covered. Right. So I think with that, we'll wrap up this last session of the day in the time that we had with these great minds present on stage with me. We tried to talk about a lot of things, the basic building blocks for a data-led culture, a data-led foundation in terms of technology, the platforms, the need for working on the organizational culture to pave the way for some of these cognitive capabilities to then take root. And we also spoke about interesting use cases of AI and data-led innovations within enterprises. I think with that, when we meet next time, next year at the Data Strategy Summit, we'll have a lot more use cases to discuss, a lot of innovations to be presented here on stage as case studies. And with that hope, I leave all of you with a very happy Friday evening. Make the most of it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neha.